Ladies and gentlemen, this is the Right Guys podcast, where we slay political mercenaries one sentence at a time. And now your hosts, Josh Hammerling and Max McGuire. Unmute yourself, buddy.
Oh, sorry. Welcome back to another edition of the Right Guys podcast. My name is Max McGuire.
I'm Josh Hammerling. Welcome to it, man. Oh, man. You were going to. You were hitting it hard.
I know.
Let's start again. Let's do it. And now your host, Max McGuire. Go.
Sorry. I was pulling the sanctimonious influencers, and I didn't actually have my screen on. I thought I was unmuted. Welcome back to another edition of the podcast. Max McGuire here with Mr. Producer Josh Hammerling. It's funny. I can always tell when some of these shows are going to be interesting when we start having a conversation before we go to air, and I'm saying things, and all of a sudden Josh's hand just goes over his mouth, and then he's like, no, we're just gonna do it live.
Yeah.
And I'm getting worked up. He's like, no, save it for live.
Yeah.
So I was telling you, Josh, as we came in here, I've had about enough of the DeSantis supporters, not supporters, the influencers. The supporters, it's perfectly fine to say, hey, I like this guy. Yeah. He didn't win. Okay. Obviously, we want a conservative in the White House. So
Sure.
Yeah. Or maybe you play a little hardball and you say, hey, you know what? You want my support. This is what I want added to the platform. Maybe you take the three things that DeSantis was the most passionate about that Donald Trump wishy-washy on, and pressure the RNC to add it to the platform. Like, that's how this kind of process goes now that the primary is essentially over. But what has happened in the last couple days, since obviously Iowa was a Trump route and now DeSantis dropping out, what you have are these DeSantis influencers, which, let's be absolutely clear, they have been paid by the DeSantis camp. The Ron DeSantis camp did something different from the way that political campaigns are usually run. Usually, political campaigns put most of their money into television ads. That's where they've said they have the best bang for their buck. What the DeSantis, and to a lesser extent, the Vivek campaigns did this time around, is they were paying influencers, people with 50,000, 100,000, 200,000 followers on Twitter, social media accounts, and basically paying them to be their surrogates, to be their spokespeople. Now, in the grand scheme of things, that's not that radical. Campaigns have surrogates who go on television and they give the spiel and they repeat the talking points. But what's unique is that this time around, they essentially paid nobodies. And not nobodies. I don't say that in a mean way.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't say that in a mean way. I mean, like, this isn't like Kayleigh McEnany, who is going to be Trump's press secretary and then become Ron DeSantis's spokesperson. And then when that's done, she's going to hope to get hired by another campaign, right? These aren't careerists. They're not people who go from one campaign to the other, who in doing that will inevitably kind of say things that they wish they didn't say because it influences their next job. But they're also always saying, hey, I can't go too hard against this candidate because he's probably going to have to pay me in a couple months when I work for him.
Yeah.
The influencers don't have that problem. They have a 9-to-5 job where they have a different job, and they're just on social media, just doing their own thing.
Message every day.
Put out the message every day. So I was explaining to you the problem that this has created, and I could see the gears turning in your head as you're understanding the problem. If you were to hire a formal surrogate who goes on Fox News, CNN, and they do your talking points, right? Well, do you know what happens if you fire that surrogate, or if the campaign's over? That surrogate stops speaking on your behalf because it's understandable. They were a surrogate. Now it's off. Now it's done. Like, at one point, Chris Christie was a surrogate for Donald Trump, just to see how easily you can completely do a 180 turn over a couple of years. Well, with the sanctimonious, a lot of people call online the simps. The DeSimps.
No, really? They call them the Simps?
The Simps. Because it's just so gross how they're just simping after DeSantis. Wow. And it's just obvious what's happening, right?
It's brilliant, but yeah, keep going.
What's happened to them, and I've talked to people, and this is generally how it goes. they've built up their following on social media over the Trump years, saying conservative stuff, getting MAGA supporters, right? Building that up. All of a sudden, the DeSantis campaign comes in and says, hey, we'll pay you $50,000 through the end of the campaign, but you're a surrogate for Ron DeSantis. You have to support Ron DeSantis in everything you do. These people say, whoa, that's life-changing money.
Yeah.
I mean, for them, it can be like,
Yeah.
listen, for me, it would be life-changing money. You want to pay me $50,000 to be a surrogate? I was a Trump surrogate in 2015, 2016, and I did it for free.
It makes doing the social media life a lot easier, right?
I was doing it in 2015, 2016 for free, just in Colorado, on the radio,
just to get
on
them,
TV. And just because I thought it was cool at the time, early in the campaign, they were splicing best parts of people, and then they let you know, hey, we just sent this off the campaign. The big guy's listening to it on the jet. I thought that was cool. That you could have fiery radio performances, and then the big guy, Trump, would listen to it on the jet as he's crisscrossing the country. I did it for free. And I didn't do it to build my own name.
Yeah.
I did it because I didn't see anyone else doing it. And I felt someone had to be defending this man because everyone was trying to run away from him. What you have with the Simps is they were paid to do this, but they were paid to take a position that they can't walk away from anymore.
Which blows my mind. Because here's the way I see it, man. It's a brilliant move to go and to grab influencers, right? Talk about getting bang for the buck.
Yeah.
I mean, that's like a cultural changing event inside of politics when you start paying influencers like that, right? Which also explains some of this behavior at some of their rallies where they're asking people to leave because they may not be the influencer that I'm paying for, or they're paying for this one, so it pays now to know who's doing what. So now you've got a team of people that are following influencers, right? So just a whole new machine to add to the political playbook, right? So first off, I think it's brilliant. Here's one of the crazy things in like all cultures you build that there's always some sort of weird kickback, right? Something happens. For every action, there's an opposite and sometimes weird reaction with people. And imagine their whole life, unless I say their whole lives, but all of their current income, which is income that has never been there before, right? That is big for doing very little work, right? Other than saying, this is who I love. It's not hard to run social media. And now they're getting these monster checks for it. Why would I stop? My whole following loves me for saying, I hate Trump. I love DeSantis. Yeah, rah. I'm going to buy you a cup of coffee. And they're getting $5 here, $10 there, $5 here, right? Would you stop?
No.
Dude, I would be all in at that point. I'd be like 28. Here we go.
And it's not just like that there's benefits to not stopping. They've been basically paid to back themselves into a corner. They've been paid to present the facade and claim that they are more principled than everyone else. And because they are so principled, Ron DeSantis is the only candidate they can support. When you base the support on this house of cards of saying, I am the only principled take is this one. To do anything else is to suggest that you're unprincipled.
Yeah, you couldn't take money for another campaign. You just can't jump ship, right? Because your persona is built around it.
Yes.
And it, like everybody knows in media, you've got to have the personality. You sell the personality, right? That's why people come to you. That's why politics works. And this is scary, man. It's like you're making perma armies, or armies that sooner or later, my guess is we'll start taking the money, and we will see it kind of being a, my brand is selling you, right? Not necessarily being the DeSantis supporter, but yeah, right. I mean, you described, and it came to my mind when we were having the conversation before the program started, is that I was like, man, Max, you just described like political mercenaries.
Yes.
Highest bidder.
Yes.
Highest money.
Yes.
And you're in, which is, so what do we do with all the money that's going to the cable news networks? Is it as effective?
It's still going.
Yeah,
Remember that Ron
the marketing's not good though.
Ron DeSantis spent, I believe, over 9 figures, like 9 figures ad spends, like for his campaign. They dumped a obscene amount of money to go nowhere, right?
Yeah.
You describe them as political mercenaries. I love it, because what happens if you're paid by a company? Let's say the company, you're paid to go into some African nation and fix a problem. What happens if the company goes bankrupt? What happens?
Woo!
What happens if you're only in country to collect a paycheck? What happens if the country goes bankrupt? Like, what happens if BlackRock gets disavowed and everyone's just left?
Yeah.
Like, that's what's happened here. And there's a difference. There's a difference between the professional political class, the people who do this for a living, and they understand the game and they know how to basically not back themselves in a corner that they can't escape from. Like look at Tim Scott. Tim Scott ran for president. He ran for president. He wasn't rabidly anti-Trump. He carved out a little niche for him to basically say, I think I'm better. Support me. And then when he doesn't get supported and he drops out, what does he do next? He endorses Trump. See, he could do that. He could do that because he didn't back himself into the corner.
Correct.
He didn't back himself into the corner of being never Trump and saying that his principles require him to be never Trump, because the minute then that you go back on that promise, you appear unprincipled, and then your career is over. I played this for you, and you said no, let's just play it live, play it, because you can see it's a huge problem. This is Ron DeSantis just a couple of days before he dropped out and endorsed Donald Trump for president. Here's what he had to say about people who kiss the ring for Trump.
It's about it. You can be the most worthless Republican in America, but if you kiss the ring, he'll say you're wonderful. You can be the strongest, most dynamic, successful Republican and conservative in America, but if you don't kiss that ring, then he'll try to trash you. You know what? You deserve a nominee that's going to put you first, not himself first.
What did he then do? Days later? He followed the path of what he called the worthless Republicans. He kissed the ring. And what does that mean in doing so? According to his words, he put his own needs ahead of the people. Because he basically said, if you don't kiss the ring, you're putting the people's needs ahead of your own. That sucks. And this is why I think the Ron DeSantis campaign collapsed much faster than many people think, because that speech was in between Iowa and when he dropped out. If he knew he was dropping out, and if he knew ring kissing was imminent, he wouldn't have said that. What, am I wrong?
I'm so sorry, Don Trump.
Like, you don't say that if you look to your phone like, oh, what do I have for my 12 o'clock tomorrow? Right. Oh, I have to kiss a ring. Like, you don't say that.
Right.
So this had to have come really quickly, because his surrogates were trashing Trump less than a day before he kissed the ring.
Their own internal polling must have showed that he was crashing and burning at this point. They're just burning cash, right? Like, we need to get to 28, right? Somebody finally says to him, you need to get to 28. It's not gonna be 24, man. It's not happening, right? I mean, your CEO is telling you we need to reconfigure here. Let's move on. Let's think about the next one. Looking bad while doing it, though, was his own doing. So, man, talk about shooting yourself in the foot. I mean, he knew he was going to have to kiss the pinky ring at that point. So it does look bad, right? It's a total political. But here, the turnaround, though, is that to them it was just politics. All of a sudden, it was, you're a good man. Thank you so much. Hey, nothing, no harm, no foul. We're besties.
Yeah.
We're besties overnight.
Yeah.
So will anybody remember?
Oh, the DeSimps remember.
Oh, no.
The DeSimps remember.
No, really?
This is the problem. Ron DeSantis can say, okay, you know what? I'm back to being governor. It was all in good fun. At the end of the day, we need to rally. How do you do that if you are let's say you're a 9-to-5 white collar employee who all of a sudden just walked into money from a campaign and 100,000 followers?
Yeah.
How do you turn that off? And that's the risk. That's the real risk of this kind of political advertising. And I think it's why you're not going to see campaigns do this in the future. If you pay for television ads, right? Do you know what happens after you drop out? The ads stop running.
Mm-hmm.
You can get on stage with Donald Trump and say, you know what, we're going to let bygones be bygones. We're going to work together. We're going to work together for the betterment of the country and resolve our differences. And you know what? In doing so, I'm going to try and convince him that I'm right on this issue, that we share more in common than we don't. But I'm going to try and like guide him towards this path. That's what these people always do. That's how this always works. But when you pay the influencers, the ads don't stop running. The ads keep running. And not only that, it becomes more important than perhaps before for the ads to keep running, because all of a sudden the paycheck isn't coming in anymore. Okay, well, if they're going to have to do this organically, naturally, they're going to need a lot more engagement. What's going to get more engagement? Them betraying the persona they just spent a year building, or them doubling down?
Max, what if somebody comes to him and says, we've got 100,000 followers that follow our account now, just be our influencer? What's to stop a dim from swooping in and buying the services of this person in effort of that, right? Because, oh, that poor person, we came in, we saved them, we helped them, we're making sure they're still making their money, and now they're stumping for me, right? I mean, it's ripe for being screwed in the end. I mean, you're getting screwed twice. So the bad news, the original stuff continues, and the new anti stuff would jump in there. This could have really profound effects, right? You can see this war for influencers in political cycles, which would be wild, right? That'd be something never done before, especially if they're just an engaging person. Whoa.
Yeah. So, and listen, I call these people influencers, but we have to be honest. And listen, I don't have a ton of a social media following. I've never really focused on it. I probably should have at some point.
I follow you, so there's one.
Yeah, that's true. You asked me for NFL picks over the weekend. I probably should have built it up a little bit, but then again, I also worked hard to try and build my Telegram, and then people just quit Telegram, and it was like all for nothing. So like, oh, whatever.
Well, there it goes.
But I just want to show you what we're talking about when we think like influencers. One of the worst is, without a doubt, Heath Mayo. Heath Mayo is followed by 67,000 people. 67,000 people have said, you know what? I kind of want to hear what you're talking about. And because of that, that's gone completely to his head. And he's become the most rabid anti-Trump, anti-conservative never-Trumper. He says Christian conservative. He founded Principles First, just to see what we're talking about here. Let's look at some of the things he's posting. He's also started reposting Nikki Haley's stuff.
That's scary.
I don't know if he was paid by the DeSantis team to be a quote-unquote DeSimp, but the fact that he's now retweeting Nikki Haley is very interesting. Very, very interesting. New Hampshire, if you want someone normal, vote for someone that's actually normal. That's his organization running this, to vote for Nikki Haley. And they're just plastering this over and over and over again. And he's basically saying, never Trump, never Trump, never Trump, never Trump. You see, these people have backed themselves into a corner, and you never burn the bridge. If you think there's even the slightest chance you might have to cross back over the river, you don't burn the bridge. I don't know what's the case here. Are these people who have burned the bridge realize they made a mistake and are doubling down? Or are these people who are so foolish they think, oh, I never have to go back across that river. I'm good. I'm good to go. And they just go with it.
Well, they're influencers. They don't have careers built to this, right? This is their first taste of it. They have no idea how to run and work with it, right? They're just going to ride the pony until it dies, for lack of a better example there. But that's the whole point, right? And maybe they don't care, and they're hoping it does die. But, what happens if, like, negative influence payments, right?
Yeah.
Right now, you're telling me I'm going to pay you money so you can talk positive about me. So why can't I take the opposite approach and have negative influencers? I mean, there would be no end to this, Max. I mean, once you start down this road of using influencing on social media, there's no whoever has the most money will win that realm. That is the truth. You will have the most bots, and they won't be bots; they'll just be humans, right? But you paid them off like they're bots. It's like you replaced one with the other, right?
Yeah.
And we used to talk about that all the time. It's all the bots promoting all this. Those disappear, but would you give up 50 grand for telling somebody to say good things about them? You know what I'm saying?
Not if I wasn't already going to say something like that. Like, I wouldn't take 50 grand to say something I didn't believe in.
Yeah. Like, I'd have those.
If I was already saying it, then why not? But I would also be smart enough to understand that eventually that check's going to stop coming in, right? The minute you get so confident that this is going to be forever money and you make mistakes, no, you're only as good as the next job you can get if this is your line of work. And trust me, it is very easy for bad political analysts and bad political actors to get their next job, even if they lose by landslides, right? There's always a next job. No one ever gets kicked out completely. It's almost, the old joke, what do you call the person who comes at the bottom of his med school class? Doctor, right? What do you call the political consultant who loses by 50 points? He's a political consultant. He's still in the business, right?
Bottom of the anthropology class. Still an anthropologist.
Yeah, the anthropologist. So it's true for everything. Lawyers, doctors, right? No, I mean, you look at back in the day, you talked about grassroots online activism. You talked about netizens, right? Where they would go to, like, what was it called? Netroots. In the old days, and these were like hardcore Democrat netizens. That's what they called themselves. And they ran for Howard Dean. They were pushing Howard Dean hard. Just to show you how long ago I'm talking. Yeah. But they were all in on him, right? And they've been all in on different people in the 2000s, right? They were all in. And that was a grassroots movement because they weren't getting paid. Like, the average person in that campaign probably couldn't even get on the internet at the time. Right? You know what I mean? Like, these are old school campaign workers. So these were just grassroots people actively on their own volition going out and trying to create a movement online. And that, to a large extent, that happened for Barack Obama too. You had a groundswell of support on social media, younger voters. Oh, this is cool. This is hip. I'm going to get involved in this, right? The hope poster, all that stuff. Really shareable, memeable stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Well, what do you have now? You have a similar thing going on, but those influencers have their hands out. They say, okay,
my time is worth something, right?
Yeah.
My time is worth something. You want my audience. I want my check. I mean, it's a natural transaction, right? I mean, who hasn't sold influence before? Like, the big guy. I'm sorry. Let me think. Hunter.
Yeah.
Wait, that's alleged. But who hasn't sold?
No, he's sold influence. He's sold influence. We can say that confidently.
Okay. But who wouldn't want to sell that influence? You worked up that audience. Who wouldn't want to leverage it to make a check? You put time and love into it.
But here's the other thing. I'm almost hesitant to even use the word DeSantis influencer because by very definition, they didn't influence shit. Like, imagine getting paid all this money to influence. And at the end of the day, you've influenced no one but your own little echo chamber that's formed in your little bubble, right? The goal of the influencer is to influence people and compel them to take a certain action, do something, buy a product, right? Like something, fill out a form, give your information, whatever. I don't think there's a single DeSantis influencer that can say that they succeeded in fulfilling the basic roles of an influencer.
I don't recall anybody on social media acting like an influencer. So whoever was out there was doing such a lousy job at it that I never saw it. Right. Yeah. And by now, X has got to know I'm conservative, right? Two-way, all that stuff. It knows. So where was it all? Where was it?
You want to get into you want to go down into the rabbit hole?
Yeah, of course I do. I want to see this stuff if it exists. I haven't seen it.
there are theories out there, which I can't prove, but
Uh-huh.
people are talking about it. I mean, that's like
Okay,
a cop out.
okay. Yeah.
People are saying,
I like how it's like,
there are theories that the minimum threshold of followers to become a DeSantis influencer were 4 digits. These are rumors that are starting to circulate. Yeah, you know, like I've taken our podcast and I've tried to get advertisers, right? And they're like, "Oh, you need X number of downloads per episode." Like, okay, we'll get there eventually.
Yeah.
There's always a threshold that if you're below this, it's not worth my time, right? Come back when you have a following. There is some rumblings that if you showed up to the DeSantis camp with 4 digit, and just so we're clear, I'm talking like 2,000.
Yeah.
3,
4 digits is 1,100 or 1,001.
Right? Yes. 1,000 and 9,999. Somewhere in that range.
Yeah.
That you could actually get not as much money, but a stipend. And one of the people that keeps coming up, and I'm sorry, I'm gonna put this guy on blast. I hope for his sake that this isn't true. Is this guy Manny Fernandez, Libertarian 357? And one of the reason is he put in his Twitter bio, past master DeSantis 2024, and he's posting stuff like this. Let me be absolutely unequivocally, with zero doubt honest where I stand. I will never, under any circumstances, vote for Trump. Not only because of his inept record, but mostly because his vile supporters that I unfortunately have to admit was once. And he has this screed. And then you look, 1.6 thousand likes. 1.6 thousand likes. So there's something about this guy. That only just shy of 2,300 people follow him. But there's something about him that just gets far more reach. And then you look at his past master, DeSantis 2024, and you start wondering, did Ron DeSantis like slip this guy a tenner? Like, here's $10, and the guy just it bought him. I don't know, but there are a lot of accounts like this, like a couple thousand, 2,000, 3,000, that have gotten a ton of reach on posts. This signifies to me that there's a network of these people, and they're all retweeting each other. Right?
Gotta be.
So if you have, and I don't know if it exists, but if I was in this position, I'd do it. I'd create like a group me set up on your phone for like a group text. Have all of them in it where they all post their links and everyone retweets it, reshares it. That to me would explain how you have 144,000 reach on a post from someone with just 2,300 followers, 2,298. Let's look at some of these other ones.
Yeah,
2,800 just on a block. Now, here he says, now I can sit back and watch it all burn down. I am officially leaving the Republican Party tomorrow morning. 39,000 reach on an account with just 2,300 followers, right? All of these well exceed the reach that you would expect to see from an account that size.
It's like using bots without bots.
Well, it's just a bunch of people who have a shared interest in getting more reach.
Well, what if they are being paid for that shared interest?
Mm-hmm.
And then there's election laws. Yeah. And then there would be like, or were you acting as a paid member of the party versus someone just on the street corner spouting my opinion?
They're basically surrogates. If that guy was paid too, he's basically a surrogate.
Right.
Probably a very cheap surrogate. But you can start to see what happens, how an echo chamber can form. If you have all of these so-called surrogates resharing all of their stuff, you might look at it and say, okay, this guy's 100,000 followers, this guy's 50,000, this guy's 50,000, this guy's 5,000, right? You add them all together, that's like 200,000 people we can reach. Wow, yeah. That's huge. But then you realize that they're probably all followed by the same people.
Yeah.
And since they keep retweeting each other, It's only going to the same audience.
Same people, right? It's not actually spreading anywhere because there's no one of the similar interests. The only ones that are the similar interests are already inside their group. They would be stuck together. And it would be an utter waste of money and effort and time.
Yeah.
And it's a permanent blight on top of it because it stays there forever because their following's there. They're making cash off it.
Yeah.
So why did they do it?
It's all clicking. It's all now you know why I'm really like pissed off about this. It was so stupid to do this.
Somebody's got to be laughing in the opposing party. Like,
never should have given these people money.
Oh, whoever the marketing team for that was brilliant because they sold it. Right? They got it off the table, and now that's out there. Like, well, we're gonna have to reevaluate that one. Yeah, it's just wild, dude.
Imagine being a DeSantis. Let's assume in this world that this Manny Fernandez,
truly does love him.
That he actually was paid. Let's just imagine if he was paid. Immediately after the campaign is over, what did he tweet out? I'm officially leaving the Republican Party. So, if Ron DeSantis paid this guy, he's basically built it up. So now this guy, like all these DeSimps are saying the same thing. Oh, we're leaving the Republican Party. This is how foolish this whole strategy was.
Oh my gosh.
Because Ron DeSantis presumably wants to run for the Republican nomination again in the future. That's probably why he kissed the ring, realizing, hey, I'm doing myself some damage here. And he's going to do so in a world where there are less registered Republicans. Because the influencers he paid told people to leave the Republican Party.
Oh, yeah. All I can hear is like there's a car driving, right? And suddenly you hear the brakes. And it's slowing down. And then you hear the crash. Boom! And it rolls over. That's what this is. It is a disaster.
Yeah.
You lose supporters.
Yeah.
There's less conservatives in the world. And now they're spreading that, right? Now they're influencing that echo chamber. What if somebody else picks up on it, right? And that spreads because it could. I mean, this is disaster. It should have radiation signs all over it, right? Let's avoid this in the near future, unless you can figure out a way to weaponize it against the other side, which you could. I mean, all you'd have to do is start paying a bunch of influencers, right?
Well, you create something that looks grassroots, but in like political theory, it's called AstroTurf because it looks like it's grassroots, but it's not real.
Yeah, it's not real.
It's not real. And so when you build your campaign on this fake support, and then the support actually hurts you in the end, it makes no sense. It absolutely makes no sense. And I'm trying to find one.
Trump's approach has been totally different in this cycle, man. Like he's really matured in how he presents himself in the cycle. Like he's just trying to draw people back in. So maybe they realize, in marketing, you always want to put the money where you think the people are at, right? And it clearly is not with influencers. And Trump seems to be dominating. So he's getting his message at true grassroots by actually getting the person out there to his events, right? He's been doing that for almost 8 years, right? You don't get much more grassroots than that because he actually physically goes to those people. He talks to them. He takes fire departments, pizza, right? He has ice cream at some of the events. He talks to people. He serves people, right? Mm-hmm. That's a grassroots movement. That's why you're up 60%, not some of this like artificial turf, for lack of a better word, in grassroots movement. There's nothing there, right? You just got an AI and an algorithm determining who your audience is going to be. And that's all you'll ever get. There's no way to actually spread. So there's your money. There's your money shot.
I want to show you this guy. You've probably seen this guy. Bill Mitchell. To the point where he actually put DeSantis's campaign logo.
Great picture.
In his header.
Yeah.
For an account that he uses for his actual podcast. So he's co-branded. He's co-branded the Ron DeSantis campaign and his podcast networks for his Twitter, right? So he is as anti-Trump as possible. and he's basically saying hate Trump, hate Trump, hate Trump. And he's gotten a lot of pushback. I want to show you what happens, though, when you take someone like this, who claims that they're principled, but really aren't, and you put them in a campaign at an official level. Here's some reporting. Things are starting to leak out of the DeSantis camp. People don't want to be left holding the hot potato when the music stops and taking the blame for wasting 9 figures worth of donations. They're talking about a conference call, and I'll go ahead and read it for the audio listeners, which if you haven't already, subscribe to the audio edition of the podcast. Really, really important. Quote, "The conference call was a shit show. Just an absolute shit show," said a former Fight Club member who was on the call. People, top staffers, were pressed on the message, and especially after the failed rollout, they had no answers. During a particularly bizarre portion of the meeting, Bill Mitchell, a DeSantis supporter with a large social media following, asked the top DeSantis campaign staff if they could call Musk because he was concerned that the site was limiting visibility of his posts, a practice commonly referred to as shadow banning. He cut me off, I'll remember this to this day, and asked the top people of the campaign if they could call Elon Musk and ask why is he being shadow banned, a second person on the call recounted. That is the level of people we were working with. It was just kind of embarrassing to a point. Mitchell did not return a request for comment. So just to illustrate the kind of people that you're talking about, if he was paid to be a DeSimp, which we don't know for sure, I guess it'll come out in campaign expenditure forms that are going to have to be filed eventually.
Yeah.
I would lean towards that, seeing as how he co-branded his podcast header image with the DeSantis campaign. It doesn't seem like something that's in your financial interest unless it is. He's at this meeting. He's supposed to be talking about messaging, and instead he's trying to get his own account unshadow banned. And I just think it's really interesting because he presents himself as this unprincipled conservative warrior. This principled conservative warrior. But behind the scenes, what 2 sources have told that reporter is that he was really as selfish could be, because he was trying to use the campaign architecture to advance his own personal social media account.
Yeah. And they're pissed. And you're like, yeah, that's the level of person we're working with here.
Yeah, that's who we're working with.
Wow. Because I'm putting in context. I'm like, this guy's just trying to just glom off their fame to make himself a stronger follower, which means they've blown all that money if he was part of that. I mean, talk about not just a waste, but you'll make an enemy.
And you can understand how he could go into that meeting thinking that this is something that the campaign should do. Campaign is presumably paying him to be a surrogate, post on social media. If he's shadow banned on social media, those posts don't reach as many people. His advocacy isn't as effective. So you can understand how someone could come into a campaign meeting and say, hey, the campaign should actually do this. It's in the campaign's interest to make sure I reach more people because you're paying me to reach people, presumably.
Mm.
But the people on the campaign, these actual workers, understand how ridiculous it is to pay surrogates, to pay influencers, are just spilling all the tea.
Wow. So why do it in the first place? Like who greenlighted this? That's a great idea. Let's get a bunch of people we can't control down the road to stump for us. Let's do it. That also means that probably there was nobody at the wheel with these folks, right? They just sent this money out, gave them probably 2 pages of something to follow, sent them an update every, week, 2 or 3 days, some sort of video they could throw into the campaign, and that was it.
I don't think all of these influencers were like Rob Schneider, the bellhop in Home Alone 2. I don't think they're just like out the door like, I think they were approached. I think it's probably because everyone didn't just ask to get paid. Someone had to have said, hey, you know what? We can probably reach more people. And in fairness, they probably did, dollar per dollar, reach more people than traditional advertising. But the other side of that coin is when you empower, let's say 100 people to go tweet on behalf of the campaign. Are they all approved tweets? No.
Yeah, right.
Are they all sticking to the style guide and
Mhm.
sticking to talking points? No.
Probably not.
And what ended up happening, anyone who's experienced this over the last year on Twitter as a Trump supporter, like, listen, the Trump supporters on Twitter and any social media, whether it's Twitter, YouTube, TikTok, or even
Yeah.
the Donald, Patriots.win, we all just want to have a good time. We crack jokes, we laugh at people's misfortune. We don't take anything personally, right? These DeSimps were vicious. Vicious,
Like a lover scorned?
like actually trying to destroy people. And listen, there's some Trump supporters who are just as vicious at DeSantis and his wife. It's true, right? But I guarantee you that when DeSantis paid these people to support his campaign, he wasn't paying them to destroy Donald Trump by any means necessary.
No.
They're
Maybe.
probably paid to prop up his campaign, because campaigns are very restrictive on when they go negative, right?
They'd have to be. Yeah, you'd have to be, because you got to be in control of that.
Yeah.
You've got to be in constant control of the narrative. But the moment you have surrogates, Max, like the narrative begin, it could be a game of terrible telephone, right?
Yeah.
And then that's probably where they're getting the Trump hate. So maybe they had to pull the plug now.
Here's the other thing: if you're a surrogate, let's say you go on CNN, that's your job. Every 3 days you're on CNN, and you're supposed to go there and you're supposed to talk on behalf of the campaign. Well, you know who books that appearance? The campaign. They book the campaign. They book the appearance for you. Do you know what happens if you go off script? You get fired, and you're no longer on CNN. At least you're not getting booked through the campaign, and the campaign probably tells CNN, "Hey, we fired this guy. He's going off message. If you bring him on, we're sending no one to CNN. You lose all access to the campaign." They play hardball like this.
Yeah.
So when you go off script, you lose your money and you lose your reach. Well, what happens if you cut that $50,000 check to one of these influencers? They go off script, and you say, "Okay, you can't be a surrogate anymore." Well, you've already paid them. They already have the reach. You can't gatekeep their access to television studios because you were paying them, because they don't have that. They don't have those gatekeepers restricting who they can talk to. So even in a world where these DeSimps went too far, what happens if you fire them? Nothing. They don't get additional checks, but you've already paid them. You've already amplified their voice. You've already increased their following. And yeah, it is like mercenaries without a benefactor, without a payer. What happens? What happens if the dog has been bred to dogfight his entire life, and then you shut down the dogfighting ring? What happens to that dog?
You got to put it down.
Well, not necessarily, but you can try to rehabilitate it. It's not going to be easy.
No. Yeah, maybe that's a little harsh, but
it's not harsh.
Yeah.
The Greyhound track gets shut down.
Okay, yeah.
The Greyhounds. Let's end the show on a high end that doesn't involve shooting the dogs.
I'm waiting for that.
Which is the allegory of let's kill them.
Right. No, you
take away the.
You find him a new home. You find him the Greyhounds.
No Michael Vick. We're talking about the
See,
Greyhound.
that's where I was going.
Talking about the Greyhound track. When these dogs, every minute of every day for their entire life, they've been trained to run around a track and race. All of a sudden, the state bans Greyhound racing. What do you do with the dogs? Well, you rehome them, right? But they're still racing dogs.
Yeah, it's in their blood. It's in their mind.
And yeah, you are right. When it comes to dog fighting, it is really hard to rehome those dogs.
Yeah, right.
And they usually end up getting put down, or they go to very specific sanctuaries for that kind of thing. But those tend to be very, very dangerous.
I'm an animal person, for everyone's note. I'm just saying.
Yeah,
I'm an animal person. I'm an animal person.
But it's an uncomfortable reality of when you've trained an animal to kill. You can't just turn that off. And there is some truth to this situation. When you pay the DeSimps to kill, you can't turn it off. Ron DeSantis, we played the clip of Ron DeSantis saying, look at all these loser politicians kissing the ring because they want Trump to say nice things. What did DeSantis do? He kissed the ring. What did Donald Trump then say? I'm retiring the DeSanctimonious nickname.
Yep.
He said it. He literally, it played out exactly as DeSantis warned it would. The influencers won't do that.
No, they'll just wait for the next benefactor. Or whatever does benefit them, right? They will do what benefits them. So if their new platform is anti whatever it is you pay them to be because it earns them money, they will do it, right? If they stay pro you, they're going to do it, right? If their following follows that. So really, it's like it feels like it almost buys votes. You know what I mean? Like it's a very different way of trying to shore up and pay for that vote.
I hope it goes away. I hope it goes away because it creates the false illusion that support exists when it really doesn't. And so if you're going to use social media to get the word out, this whole scheme is not good at managing messages. Like a lot of people, I think one of the reasons DeSantis might have lost is because these idiots were taking positions that the DeSantis campaign never would have taken, never would have authorized. I mean, I personally hate these people. And I don't know them. Yeah. And I want them gone. And you see them like, oh, well, I'll never vote for Trump. Never. And you're like, okay, you go through the bio. I wonder where they live. Oh, they live in California. Oh, I wonder how many followers they have. Oh, they have 3,000 followers.
Max,
who the hell cares? Who the hell cares if this person with 3,000 followers in California, a state that wasn't going to go Trump, who cares if she says she's never voting for Trump again? No one cares. No one cares. But they've propped it up and they've made this a voice that they can't silence it.
Imagine sitting in the campaign meetings where they're showing data and there's this weird disparity, right? There's all of this online interaction. They're seeing all this data saying you have positive numbers of people following you and talking about what you do, but you're not seeing it in the polling, right? If you were doing things that was messaging the people, you would start seeing it in the polling. So what data were they showing in those meetings? Who was consuming that and making the decisions, right? I mean, that alone makes me pause. And if you were to see this disparity in data, shouldn't there have been a question of why? You know what I mean? There was no moment of self-analysis and self-reflection on the campaign at that point. And we wonder why he's dropping out and he was performing just above Nikki Haley, right? And I think that's what it is, right? There's no real grassroots for him, like we pointed out here. It was just a bunch of false data. And a lot of treasure was spent on, right? A lot of treasure was spent on.
A lot.
And that's, woo.
I want to, I'm going to see if I can pull something here. I'm going to pull this down and I'm going to let you read it. Or maybe I can read it.
I'll do it
this
as long
woman
as I can see
is
it.
Christina Pushaw. Christina Pushaw. She was, I believe, the rapid response coordinator. Something along those lines. Rapid response for Governor DeSantis.
Yeah.
She has basically participated in some of the worst smears that I've seen of just like anti-Trump smears. And it's hard to find them because it seems like she's been going back and deleting them. But she falls under that camp where we've all seen it. And you can't unremember what you've seen. Yeah. A lot of them are missing. A lot of them are missing now, which is interesting. Here is what she posted on Twitter, X, in the last day or so. Thanks everyone who has added my name to a hit list of disloyal conservatives so I won't get a job in the fantasy hypothetical Trump administration. I appreciate that because I'm not interested. For me, working in politics has never been about grabbing more power, influence, or attention for myself, and it's certainly not about money, because the private sector would pay more than any government job or campaign gig. No, I only work in politics because I have the once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to work for a once-in-a-lifetime conservative candidate, Ron DeSantis. She's doubling down.
Wow.
I've known him for years. I've seen him in action, seen firsthand how he handled the major crises that faced our state, yada, yada, yada. There's no doubt in my mind, and never has been, DeSantis is the unwavering, principled, patriotic, strong leader. I voted for Trump and always defended him against Russia collusion, attack, yada, yada. So she's doubling down.
Yeah.
Doubling down. But she's also deleting the posts. So she's straddling the fence. It seems that she wants to have her cake and eat it too. She wants to be able to say that she's the principled conservative. And I don't care what you say. I don't want your jobs. But as I went in the lead up to today's show to try and pull some of the things that she was saying just a couple of days ago, can't find them. Can't find them anymore.
So she's stuck, right? She is a forever DeSantis like bot, right? If she wavers, she loses that check. I mean, they found a way, and part of me wonders if they knew this going into it, that these people would stick with it, because once the money came in, it would be within their best interest to keep feeding the cycle, to keep feeding themselves, right?
Mm-hmm.
So by 2008, you've already have all these people. You'd be able to claim a grassroots movement. Again, that would be AstroTurf, but there would be a lot of people talking about it. So has this actually planted a seed for a long-term candidate viability, right? A long-term campaign, essentially, is what it turns into. And you wouldn't have to pay anything to it, because the influencer herself would be paid for the things that they're saying. Like, is this deeper than I'm taking it right now, or go ahead?
Here is a reporting from a meeting she was in the DeSantis case. I love this because it's really fun to see this come out. Just how DeSantis and Haley spent all this money attacking each other, destroying each other, and Trump has come out unscathed. The campaign restructured its social media policies, prompting a confrontation between Peck and the campaign's social media maven, Christina Pushaw, who didn't create the video in question but was locked out of messaging meetings, which prompted a confrontation at the Tallahassee office. If you, quote, "If you think I'm so off message and bad at messaging, why are you cutting me out of messaging meetings?" Pushaw yelled. "I'll just effing quit." So there's all this fighting. And you can see that this is not normal. This is not how campaigns are normally run. This is not how messaging is usually done.
It's a disaster.
For a campaign that claims it's the most principled, right? Claim that it is, that they're the parents, they're the adults in the room. It's been really remarkable in the last couple days to read just how dysfunctional it was, and just how quickly they burned through a boatload of money.
Yeah, for nothing. Like, this is when people look back on this might be one of those textbooks on what not to do.
Yeah.
Right? There's a lot that you can learn from these two. They spent so much money attacking each other. They did tear each other down, but they were really bad. They wasted the cash on it too. And they didn't even further their campaign in the process, right? And Trump's just watching them taking shots at each other, sipping his iced tea, laughing from his leather chair, right? I mean, he's Teflon Don right now. Nothing's going to stick that they say. Nothing that comes out of their mouth, since we've proven they're unprincipled people, it's not going to do anything. I mean, he's going to just brush them off, and they know it. Go ahead.
Here's one bit that I like. I have to find out where it's from. Everything about the DeSantis operation is fabricated, fake, constructed to give appearances, inauthentic, and AstroTurf. Voters are not stupid; they can see it and feel it in the construct as delivered. The effort of the DeSantis operation, from Sea Island to Christina Pushaw, highlights how little they think of the American electorate. They actually believe this con would work. Quote, "Pushaw thought she could mold DeSantis into the next Zelensky by using the same operation in the United States that was used in Ukraine. It didn't work." And just so we're clear, Pushaw is not a novice. In 2022, Christine Pushaw registered as a foreign agent of a former president of Georgia, Mikhail Saakashvili. I probably mispronounced that. Belatedly detailing work she performed for the politician between 2018 and 2020. So this is not a novice.
No, she's a pro.
She's a pro. And she still fell into the same trap that the DeSimps, the paid influencers, fell into, which was this idea that you don't have to look for your next job. You don't have to prevent yourself from backing yourself into a corner or burning the bridge, that this is the last job, and leave it all in the field. And she did it. And now, like many of the DeSimps, she's being left with a question: do I kiss the ring myself? Or do I claim to be morally superior to everyone else, which sanctimonious, and refuse to support the president, Donald Trump? So it's interesting. I kind of line up with, we need every vote we can get, right? And so there's a place for reconciliation, for compromise, for meeting these people halfway and adjusting the platform to try and take care of some of the concerns they have. But we can give no quarter to the so-called conservatives who can even fathom a world where they vote for Joe Biden. No quarter can be given. They have no place in the Republican Party. They have no place in the Republican primary. If the words can come out of your mouth, if you can even say without feeling dirty, I'm going to vote for Joe Biden, or you can even say, I'm going to do X, Y, and Z to help Joe Biden win, you have no place deciding the standard bearer of the Republican Party. So we can give no quarter to these people. And we're going to have to, there's going to be a reckoning in the next couple months. Are they going to say what can't be unsaid? Or are they going to realize that there's a next job after this?
They're burned.
Final word.
When you go scorched earth and you burn people like that, they'll find a way to feed their families, is the way I say it. So somebody's going to pay that bill. They're going to earn that money one way or another. And when the person comes along who's a benefactor with a lot more cash, who knows what they'll be saying for the money? Because, it's time to leave it all on the table, right?
Yeah.
There's always a new set of followers.
Yeah.
Always a new
It's true. Well, we're going to see. We're going to see how this works. Nikki Haley's probably a couple weeks away from dropping out herself. I can't imagine she drops out before South Carolina.
She might do it tonight.
She's the former governor of South Carolina. You can't. That would be a stunning. And listen, she's also said that some things that can't be unsaid.
Yeah.
She said that Donald Trump is just as bad as Joe Biden. She said that. She said that.
Come back from that.
She was Donald Trump's UN secretary.
Yeah.
A UN ambassador.
Yeah.
And she's saying they're just as bad. You can't come back from this stuff. Ron DeSantis, he's going to pull a rabbit out of a hat. He's going to come back from saying anyone who kisses the ring is a worthless person. He's going to come back from it. I guarantee you. But
he's cheerleading.
Haley, I don't think so.
No. Because they need DeSantis in 28, right? They do. They've got to know. They've got to know.
We'll see. We'll see. So as you are on social media and you come across one of these DeSimps, the DeSantis influencers, what I've been doing, I've just been saying you're a Democrat.
Yeah.
I didn't say you're a Democrat, bro. No, yeah. I need to see him. I need to see him for sure.
No, you're feeding into it. I block him and move on. But you're like, no.
I know. It's not healthy. Well, that's it for this edition of the podcast. We're going to complain again about them, but I want them in my feed. So I
got to see it.
That's it for this edition of the podcast. If you like the podcast, subscribe to the audio edition. No one's paying us. We're no DeSimps.
We want to get paid.
Yeah, we do. But
we want to get paid.
But never to say something that we don't believe. That's a line I never want to cross. No. Because the minute you're willing to sell yourself, you'll never be able to know. No one will ever know if what you're saying is real or if you're saying that because someone's paid you to say it. Mm-hmm. Right? It's also the reason why I always tell people never use the phrase like "to be honest." Because when you say to be honest, people subconsciously say, okay, well, what aren't you honest about?
Honest about everything else.
Yeah. Well, that's it for this edition. Check out all of the links in the description. Sign up for our audio podcast. Subscribe. That's it for this episode. My name is Max McGuire.
I'm Josh Hammerling.
Remember, everyone, the fight to take back the country and the fight to take back the party from the DeSimps is not over yet, but the only way we win is if we all stand up and fight together. See you next time.
See ya.